right. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Taryn to just tell you a little bit about our partnership between Tangled Studios and StarNet, and then we will proceed with Annie's recording. All right, pass it on to you, Taryn.
Great, and thank you so much for everybody joining this. We're at Tangled Studios super excited to have this kickoff and get this campaign started. Claire and Brooke said, my name is Taryn White. I'm with HHMI Tangled Bank Studios. We're a mission-driven production documentary studio, and an impact studio to that, which means that we make films about science and scientists, and then what we want to do with those stories we tell is make an impact. So we want those stories to actually change different things that we're like presenting to the public. So a lot of life science topics. So we cover everything from space science to chemistry to earth science. We cover the gambit. This is actually our fourth campaign that we're working with StarNet on, that we're bringing materials to libraries that are inspired by some of our films. In the past, we've done campaigns about bees and really focused on pollinators. We've done campaigns trying to get people to get outside and experience, their backyard and understand nature from their backyard. We've done campaigns about blue whales and understanding the biology behind, how they eat, how they survive, how they live, things like that. This campaign is really exciting. It's based off two films from our Wild Hope series, which is an award-winning digital series that talks about change makers around the globe who are doing things to restore our natural world. And the two films that this campaign is based off are two bird films, which I'm sure Annie will go into more detail about the campaign itself. And what's extra exciting about this one is it's under this formalized partnership that we started with StarNet this year, called Spark of Science at my library. And that's pretty much formalizing this relationship that we've had for years now, where StarNet and Tangle Bank Studios will work together to continue to create these campaigns and continue to create resources that we can then give to libraries to use. So with that, I'll give it back to Brooks.
Awesome. Yeah. And yeah, I was able to watch the video that Annie created, and it's, covering some of the logistics and talking about kind of what your role as a library involved in this project would be, and some of the expectations and things like that. But if anything, if you're like, whoa, 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 take a step back, why do we care about bird migrations, or something like that during this? I mean, I think you all know why we care about bird migrations, but any questions where you want us to take a step back, just, yeah, pop them in the chat. The blog post that she'll reference is going to be kind of a good place to find a ton of different information. But yeah, with that being said, let me load that up. Claire, if you want to put a couple of links in the chat already for them if they want to follow along. It is just a screen sharing of the application, a screen sharing of some of the different resources. So if you're like, oh, I want to follow, go my own speed, you can use the link right there.
Hello, everybody. My name is Annie Holland. I'm the Director of Education and Learning Research here at the Space Science Institute. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be on the call live today. I was selected for a jury, so I will be out of the office all week, but I took the time this evening, this is Tuesday evening right now for me, to record my section for this webinar so that you guys would be all prepared for your application to participate in the Flight Path program. So you have just heard from Taryn, who told you a little bit about our partnership with the Howard Hughes Medical Institute Tangled Bank Studios. And I am now going to tell you a little bit about the application process, what you can expect, and what resources we've provided for you in order to successfully complete your application. I should note, as I always do in these webinars, we are not doing an application in an attempt to do any sort of gotcha or do anything complicated to disqualify folks. We want you to have all the information you need to do a good job on these applications so that we can choose our sites based on their interest in the program, what it is that they want to offer to their patrons, and their overall excitement for the program. So please don't worry about doing anything wrong. If you feel like you have questions during the webinar, please put those in the chat. The folks from my team who are participating live will be putting all of the links in the chat for you, and they'll be answering questions as we go. excuse me, but also don't hesitate to reach out and email and ask us any questions as they come up while you're working on the application. We are always happy to answer those, and we will be putting the answers into some of the documentation that I'm about to show you so that everyone can benefit from them. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and walk you guys through some of those resources. All right, so first I am going to show you, oops, I have to click allow, and then I'm going to show you. So first I'm going to show you our flight path page on the Star Library Education Network webpage. So the flight path page just has some information about our project, the beautiful logo designed by our graphic designer, Amy, and then we'll link you directly to the application to participate in this program, which someone will put in the chat for you right now. Coming soon, it will link to our free clearinghouse activities related to this project. And we also have, which I'll come back to, a blog post that constantly updates with everything you might need to know about the project. So I'll save that for last. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and click on the application to participate, which actually takes you directly to that blog post. So a little bit more information about the project. This was the pre-application webinar that you are on right now. Selection criteria and the items that each of the chosen sites will receive. So we are looking for this initiative to be as diverse and inclusive as possible. That does not mean that there is anyone that we don't want to apply to this initiative. We just want you to know that that is one of our selection criteria, but everyone should feel welcome to apply. If you are one of the 200 chosen libraries, you'll receive a $500 honorarium to help cover the cost of events and program outreach. You'll receive some bird-friendly tape to help you make sure birds don't come crashing into your building. Some bird ID cards. We're creating a bird watching kit. Those items are kind of TBD, but things like binoculars. We'll also be doing some potentially some stickers, definitely some informal activity guides that Claire Ratcliffe-Adams, who's I believe in the chat right now, is leading the effort on right now. How-to guides for hosting bio blitzes, and then of course the promotional materials that we always provide for StarNet programs, as well as digital copies of the Wild Hope episodes, Building for Birds and Puffling Patrol, which are presented by HHMI Tangled Bank Studios, whom you heard from earlier. I want to note, libraries who aren't chosen for this opportunity will still have access to all of the digital materials, including the activity guides, the how-to guide for hosting bio blitzes, promotional materials, and those 2 Wild Hope episodes. Libraries who are selected must host a minimum of 2 public engagement events in the fall of 2025 and the spring of 2026. They must, to the best of their ability, we recognize some of you don't have the ability to make changes to your building. You must be able to attempt to make your facilities bird safe or collaborate with a partner who might be able to do that instead with the materials you're provided. We're very flexible on that requirement. Collaborate with a local partner on events. Curate and display a collection of books on birds, migration, local ecology. Participate in the StarNet online community to brainstorm ideas and share updates. This could be, like it says, just participating on the community. It could be writing us a blog post that we'll share. Anything like that would cover that requirement. We will also need you, because there is an evaluation and research component of this project, to record and report information about event attendance, demographics, and activation within your community, and then participate in a simple post-program survey about your community engagement and how folks in your community, in your library and elsewhere, are utilizing those resources. So with that, I will now take you to the link, opening up the SurveyMonkey form, where we do all of our surveys. I know you love them. So all that information that I just described for you right there. When you get into the application, you will first be asked to share your project director and shipping information. This is very important. We need to know who to contact to do the contracts. We need to know who to contact to ship you the kits that we're providing for you, the things like the bird tape, the binoculars, that sort of thing. And we need to make sure that you are using a shipping address that can accept packages. So if you're library has an address that isn't actually able to accept packages, you are able to put a home address if that is the best way to get you the materials. That's absolutely fine. But again, just make sure that you're putting an address that can accept packages. We would very much prefer that you do not use a post office box because we use FedEx to ship. If that is your only option and you cannot ship to your personal home address, a PO box is fine. Just know that that's not our preference. We won't hold it against you. You just might get your materials at a slightly different time than everyone else. We'll also need to know your unique entity ID, your UEI, as registered in the SAM system. This is the replacement for the organizational DUNS number. Someone in your business office, your contracts office, or if you are a county or city entity, someone in your county office will know what this information is. This is information that's asked on every federal grant application. We're asking it on this one just because it helps us to know that we're doing business with a known entity that is in good standing with the federal government. We'll also ask you to identify the approximate size of the population served at your location. Generally speaking, you all know this pretty well. If you're not sure, you can use census data. You can guess to the best of your ability. This is just to get us an idea of who's being served. There is not a right answer to this question. We'll also ask you to share your community type. These are the same categories that we use in all of our applications and all of our documentation to try to capture a snapshot of what is going on in the different types of libraries across the country. As I'm sure you all know, especially after the 2017 and then the more recent eclipses, we have a network of more than 10,000 libraries out of the nation's 17,000. So when we gather information like this, we are really seeing a snapshot of libraries across the country. So really important to us that you get this as accurate as possible. Again, if you don't know this information, feel free to use your census data. The census uses these categories to describe the area that you're in, and you are welcome to use that if that would help you. And then we get into the proposal narrative. This is where you can show your creative writing skills, impress us to your heart's content. Each section is limited to 400 words. I will tell you, because I know the type of people you are, that is not a hard-coded limit. You can go over 400 words if you have the story to tell, but remember, I have to read all of these. So the more concise you can be, the easier it is for me to get through all of the applications. So please do try to limit yourself to 400 words, but I understand in extenuating circumstances, you might need to go over on one or two of these sections. So the first question, question 5 here, is just simply a description of why your library would like to participate in the project. This can include community interests in STEAM topics, demographics, collections you already have, or other resources or programming focus areas related to biology and earth sciences, especially citizen science, hyperlocal biology, birds, and then what your prior experience with offering public programs around STEAM topics or specifically related to birds or hyperlocal biology might be. So this is who you are, what you already do. This is the stuff that has already happened. If you feel like you don't have many answers to this question, that is okay. Just let us know what it is you already do. We have STEM night once a month. We did STEM day one time. Anything like that is fine. Just some indication of what you've done around STEM topics. This is just to get us a good idea of where you are at currently. And it is not at all the case that the person with the most responses here will have the better chance of securing a spot on the project. That is not what we're looking for. We're not looking for the most current activities. We just want to know what it is you're doing. We'd also like to know who it is from your library staff, including volunteers, that will be supporting this project. So you can preferably provide detailed information such as that person's name, their title, what they do in your library and their experience, what specifically they'll do for this project. All of those things are very, very helpful. When I show you the rubric that we'll use to review these applications later, I'll give you some more examples. CVs and resumes are not required. In fact, I don't want them. I trust you to, in narrative form, describe the folks who are going to be doing this work. I imagine it is not more than 2 or 3 people, so I expect to see 1, 2, or 3 people in this box. If you have more, that's fine, but focus on the people who will do the bulk of the work. You do not have to give me an exhaustive list. We also always like to remind you that community dialogues are a thing that we like and we support. We think you should do them. They are an optional component, however, of participation in this program. You do not have to do one. So while you don't have to do one, we'd like to know how you receive feedback from your patrons, be that dialogues or something else. So describe how your library has incorporated patron and community feedback and how you may do so as part of this program. Have you done surveys? Have you observed patrons on the floor? Have you had focus groups or targeted conversations with populations who might not take full advantage of library services? Anything like that would be fine. I've done a community dialogue. We got training on the Harwood method for community conversation. Any of that, we just want to know what it is you know how to do and what it is you are currently doing. And then certainly if you would like more information about conducting community dialogues, we have the link for you right there. We also want to remind you, as I mentioned earlier, that a major focus of the Flight Path project is to reach underserved audiences with STEAM programming. So we want to know your one principal underserved audience that you plan to reach with programming for this project. And we want you to make a strong case for why you have chosen this project. You can reference census data or other data to make your case. Being a generally underserved geographic area is fine. The important thing here is that this is new audiences or increasing your current reach. It is not enough to say we serve girls in our program or we are a rural area. That is not enough. The question then, if one of those is your audience, is how will you better serve girls? How will you be more inclusive of your rural populations? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for an increase, not what your current baseline is. So you can share your baseline, but then tell us how you're going to improve as part of this program. And there's more info about that in the rubric as well that we'll talk about in a second. I'd also like to remind you that collaboration with STEAM organizations and individuals with STEAM expertise is important to the success of this project, as are partnerships with community organizations that don't focus on STEAM. So we would like to know what partnerships with STEAM groups and individuals in your community will help make your program a success. So 4-H, astronomy clubs, museums, cultural institutions, schools, churches, the whole gamut. We want to know if you've worked with these organizations before and how you've worked with them before. And if you're planning on listing a new organization that you haven't previously partnered with, tell us a little bit about the plans for building that partnership. A successful application will describe in detail either what you have already done with partners or how you will work with partners. An unsuccessful application will just provide me a list of names or a list of plans that doesn't explain how you get there. So make sure you're explaining how you get there with your partners to be successful here. We do not need a letter of commitment, but I request your honesty in confirming interest in participation with these partners, right? So if you're gonna list 4-H, please actually reach out to 4-H ahead of time and confirm with them that they would like to work with you on this project. That's all you need to do. I do not need proof of that confirmation. I just ask you to be honest and make sure that the other group knows they're being listed in this application. Now getting to the actual programs, the fun part, the part where some of you will go over the 400 words and others of you won't, and that's okay too. We'd like you to describe the programs that you plan to implement to meet or exceed project requirements. The project requirements are only 2 programs, and for some of my smaller libraries, I know you will do 2 programs and you will do them well, and that is great. Only doing 2 programs is not a negative, not held against you. I recognize some of our larger libraries are going to do many more programs than that because they just naturally do more programs than that. So I would ask you here to describe in detail those 2 plans. And if you would like to describe more programs, that's fantastic. You do not need to go into as much detail. I will say a successful application, again, will describe the programs in detail. It will not just list. So if I see an application for example, that lists story time using a bird book and nature walk outside the library. I need more information than that. Those are not sufficient answers for this question. Tell me which bird book that you're using and how you will make it an active story time. There are ways to increase that information. I know you know what you're doing, but I need to know what you're doing. We'd also like to know, question 11, your general publicity plans for promoting your events and community engagement, and how and if your partnership or your partner organizations will aid in that promotion. So you're welcome to link me, so to provide a link here to previous promotion that you've done for other programs, perhaps for your Eclipse programs would be a good example. Please do describe them in a few sentences. Don't just give me a bunch of links. Tell me, hey, we're going to do some promotion similar to the Eclipse. That's going to work for us because we're going to have a big one-day event and it's similar, something like that, right? You will also need to, as the person filling out this application, who should have the authority of your organization to do so. I don't want to accidentally see 3 organizations from the same library. You should, if you are not the director, you should confirm with your director that you that your organization wants to apply for this opportunity. And it should be someone at the director or similar level who has certifying power at your venue, who fills out this application. I provide you a Word document so you can always type everything up and then have your director or someone similar input the information. But again, I want to make sure that the director or equivalent knows that this opportunity is one that you are applying to and it is not a surprise for them. So in section 12 here, I need that person's first and last name and then the official name of the institution, which hopefully will match the shipping information. I also need you to check this certification, which says that the applicant organization, your library, is neither presently debarred, suspended, proposed for debarment, declared ineligible, nor voluntarily excluded from participation in this transaction by any federal department or agency. Again, this is not a federal grant application that you are filling out right now, but this tells us the basic information we need to know about your organization's standing, so we are using this as a proxy rather than asking you to do other things. So you'll need to click that certification box, and then you will submit directly through this site. Once you submit, please note no further changes will be possible. Theoretically, you can work on the application, not submit it, and then come back to it. I have that feature turned on, but I do not trust it. So I really recommend that you get everything typed out in a Word document first and fill this out in one setting. The applications are due by July 10th of 2025. If you have any trouble with the application, you can email it directly to me. My information shows up at the end of the application here. Do feel free to utilize that if that would be helpful for you. And then I'm just going to go right now. We're going to go back. So that was the end of the application, hopefully pretty painless. You've done it before if you've done a StarNet application. It's all very similar to what we normally ask. So I'm just going back here to this blog post that has all of the relevant information for applying to get you to the next piece of information here. The next piece of information after the link to the SurveyMonkey application form is that Word doc I promised right below it that has all of the questions in them so that you can type them ahead of time and then copy paste. Please take advantage of that. I think it's really helpful, and it is definitely, I think, easier to type in Word than to type in SurveyMonkey. The formatting will copy paste over if you have things like lists or bullet points, but should the formatting not copy paste over, please do not panic. This isn't my first time. I know that the formatting gets wonky, and I know it's not your fault, and I know what you intended, so I will read it with your formatting in mind. So please don't worry if we do lose the formatting as you're copy pasting over. The next item that I want to share with you is the rubric that I told you we would be using. I'm going to stop the share real quick and then reshare to make sure you guys are seeing this. So the next item here is the rubric that we will use. There we go. To score your applications. Again, the lovely bird designed by our graphic designer, Amy. So you'll see here, we will be scoring each question on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest score possible, 5 being the highest score possible. Typically with StarNet applications, I will tell you, it is people who are in the 4 to 5 range, maybe with a couple 3s, but people who are in the 4 to 5 range who get chosen. So I have given you the cheat sheet here to make sure that you are in that range and that you have the best possible, you have the best possible chance of being chosen. So I would recommend that you look at these right before you start writing each question. So for example, the first question asks about why your library wants to apply for this project. A 1, you won't get a 1. None of you will get a 1, is they don't answer the question, right? You will at least get a 2. So as you go through here, you'll see that a 2, you might have mentioned community interest or past experience, but there's no detail or information. So you might have just provided a list of past programs. Not good enough. We can do better than that. To score a 3, you've provided a complete but not necessarily compelling narrative. So this is a bit subjective. This means that I saw you write it out, but it felt like you were writing a grant proposal and that you weren't excited about the opportunity. I need you to be excited about the opportunity, and I need that to show in your writing because there are a lot of people who will want to do this. 4, which is a very good score, means that you've provided a compelling narrative citing most of the categories I listed in the question. So that includes demographics, collections, programming, prior experience with exhibits, and prior experience with programming. Even if the answer is, I have no prior experience, write that out. You won't get penalized for not having experience. You will get penalized for not telling me that you don't have experience. I don't know this already. I need to know. And then to score the perfect score here, you've described the community and interest, and you've described prior experiences, and you've done it in a way that shows me that you are excited to do this. Someone did not just assign you to write another grant proposal, that there is compelling community need and interest for this program. Now, I do not think you need me to, because you can read, your librarians. I don't need you. You don't need me to read through all of these questions, but you'll notice a theme, right? Providing me lists of things gets you a 2 or maybe a 3, depending on the question. Providing full and clear descriptions, including examples, including references if necessary, meaning just like a link to a web page. That is what will get you a 5. You do not get a 5 because you've done the most stuff. You don't get a 5 because you're my favorite library that I always work with. We don't do that. We are just looking at what your library is capable of, how you are telling us about it, and what your interest is. So if you fill out the questions utilizing this rubric, trying to at least hit the 4 and 5, you will have a very good chance. Now, obviously, we had already told you that we are looking at serving underserved populations, and we are looking at people who are excited to do this. Those 2 items aren't necessarily represented through the questions as we ask them. One of those items that's not necessarily represented is community and library need. So we will have a separate need score that represents the overall impression of need that we got through all of your questions. That means if each of your answers scores a 5, and each of your answers that score a 5 also talk a little bit about the need and desire and interest of your community, you're going to get a high score. You're going to get a 5 on the need score as well. If you give me all 5s, really compelling answers, but I don't hear that there's a need, I don't hear that there's an interest, you might score lower, maybe only a 2 or 3 on the need score. So remember that the need is important to us. So this can be, need could mean because we don't have a budget to do this ourselves. Need could mean this is something folks are really interested in, but we don't already have the knowledge of how to do it. Need could mean we've had partners reach out to us about bird or biology things, but we've just never felt like that we had the good head start to do it. Well, this is your head start. This is you addressing that need. That's the kind of thing that we should see to get a high score on the need category. And then we also, because we know that these things are a bit subjective, we have admitted to it. So we will also provide you on a scale of 1 to 5 low, medium, high, an overall score that just represents our overall impression of this application. So this can be used, for example, and has been used in the past when someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of experience writing proposals, so their narrative didn't seem as compelling as people who were really good at it, but we could tell that they were excited and we could tell that there was a great need. We might give them a 5 in the overall score because we really understand where they're coming from, even if they weren't able to translate it well onto paper. So this is kind of our opportunity to boost or lower scores based on our overall feel, the vibes of your proposal. So keep that in mind. You know us, you know who we are. We will be the ones reading these. Do the best you can to answer everything, looking at this 5 list to make sure the need is included, and to make sure that you're providing something compelling. It doesn't have to be entertaining. I don't need to be laughing the whole time, but you will get a better score if you have done a good job of explaining why this is important to you. That is, I think, the most important component. So let me stop the screen share again so I can show you the next piece. And that next piece is the FAQ document that is also listed in that blog post. Let me get that reshared. So that is listed right here next to the rubric, and I just realized I think that's going to open as a document as well, so my apologies. I need to fix the share again. Stop share, start share. You would think I'd be better at this by now. It's been, it's been a whole pandemic and all of this working online. I apologize. I don't think that's showing you, I don't think this is showing you the app. I think you're seeing my whole desktop, but that's okay. So I'm just going to really quick go through the FAQ to give the rest of the team time to finish up the webinar. So how do I know if I'm eligible? Great question. All public and tribal libraries in the U.S., territories, and protectorates are eligible to apply. Folks who may have not applied in the past because it would be hard to get an exhibit to you, this is the perfect opportunity to apply for because we are just sending a small box of stuff. So if you haven't applied in the past because you felt you were too far away, that is not a concern for this project. School and university libraries that host free programs for the general public are also eligible to apply, but they will, the public libraries will receive first availability as we go through the applications. A lot of people will ask us, hey, if I work at a military library, am I eligible? I cannot answer that question for you. You need to contact your base chain of command to determine eligibility. From what we've seen with past projects and with our Eclipse programming, every base, in essence, has its own answer to this question. You are eligible from our perspective, but you need to make sure that you are able to do it from the perspective of your chain of command. The next question is, the application mentions that reaching underserved and underrepresented audiences is a major goal of the program. How do we define this term? So for us, underserved and underrepresented refers to folks who have been excluded from STEM and science fields and careers, from participating fully in society or benefiting from public services. As I mentioned earlier, living and working in a community comprised of these people is not enough to meet the requirement. You need to be providing evidence or a plan to increase your reach to these populations. So again, if you can do a large population like girls or rural or anything of that nature, you just have to explain how you're going to increase their participation in programs, how you will increase your outreach to them, or something of that nature. The application says we should be partnering with STEM organizations. Can you provide some examples of the types of organizations you're looking for? Yes, I can. So these organizations should be providing content support or programs for your audience, but maybe don't necessarily help you draw in a new audience. That's okay. So examples might be a robotics club at your local high school, a 4-H club, industry contacts, local museums, a citizen science group. really anyone that fits anywhere in that spectrum. If you think they're STEM or STEAM, then I can guarantee you they probably are. What's most important is their community involvement, their ability to help you reach the audiences described above, and their willingness to partner with you. So definitely, I would say think beyond your current partners if you need to identify potential new collaborations. Just make sure that you talk to them before you include them in the application. The application also mentions community organizations that do not necessarily focus on STEAM. Are we allowed to partner with schools? Absolutely. We would love you to partner with schools. That would be fantastic. The intent of finding and working with community partners is to reach deeper into the community, to target underserved populations, increase reach, identify populations not currently benefiting from library services, all those sorts of things. So schools, churches, rec centers, anywhere where people gather in the community is a fantastic partner to increase that reach. I would also remind you to consider culturally focused groups if that's appropriate to your target audience. There are many different groups that could be contacted here, but yes, schools are definitely one of them. Almost done. Under programming requirements, the application says we must complete a total of 2 programs. What if we do more? How do we know if a specific type of program counts? So the 2 program minimum requirement is based on the time we're allotting you to do this, and realistic work performed in past library programs. You know you better than I know you. If you think 2 is your max, then you tell me about your 2 great programs. If you think that's not sufficient to justify applying for this project, then you tell me about your 8 programs. Either is fine. And as far as what type of programs, what is most important is that a variety of audiences are impacted by the programming. So, for example, if you're going to do story time to reach pre-K audiences, maybe have your second program be for older audiences, right? I don't necessarily think you'll score as high if you give me 2 of the same type of program. So make sure that the programs target different audiences, different age groups, that they are including as much of the community as possible, or again, reaching deeper into a specific section of your community as possible. When must the programs occur? So that is this fall into the next spring, but you all know us, we're very flexible. If you tell us, hey, we've got construction going on, or we've got this big centennial event for the library, so we're not able to do our programs till the late spring, that's fine. As long as we know ahead of time and we know that you're not just forgetting about us, that's absolutely fine. I work at our central library and wish to apply on behalf of one of our smaller libraries. Is this okay? I would say do not apply to host if you're planning on having another branch host. I need the director, manager, equivalent, whatever, at that branch to be the one applying. We have had it happen in the past where the central branch has applied on behalf of a smaller branch, maybe because they had the audience that we were looking for, or maybe because they were hoping to increase programs at that branch. But if the branch manager or director doesn't know this and isn't on board, it is not going to work the way you think it is. So please, if you want to have a different branch in your system apply, you may share the opportunity with them. You can help them write the application, but please, please, I want the application to come from that branch. If I see something coming from a central branch meant for a different branch, I will likely just throw away that application because I will have many other applications that followed this particular rule. So let's please make sure that we do that. And then lastly, what reporting requirements do we have? So a final report will be required within 60 days of program completion. This will ask you to describe your programs, provide pictures if you have them with photo releases of your programs, and provide any numerical or demographic information that you're able to provide. We are not prescriptive in what that information looks like because we know it's going to be different for every library. We will give you guidance of what we would like to see, but it is okay if you're not able to follow that to a T. A draft of that final report will be available by the time you are selected. When we have our kind of first welcome to the project meeting, the final report will be available for you to preview at that point in time. So at this point, if you guys have any questions, please put those in the chat for my colleagues to answer. Again, I really encourage, if you have any interest, please apply, even if you've never applied to any of our programs before, even if you think your library is too small, too understaffed, too whatever. If you have an interest, please do apply. We have 200 slots. We will be able to reach libraries we have not worked with before, and that will be the first libraries that we attempt to reach here. So we want to hear from our old friends. We want to hear from new friends. We want to hear from everybody. Again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And I believe that that is all I have for you. So I will turn you back over to Brooks, Claire, and Taryn, who can share a little bit more about the project and answer any questions you have. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Thanks, Annie. Yeah, we already had some great questions coming in the chat, so we'll cover those for those that might be watching the recording of this, so they can, hear what people have already asked. The most recent one is from Charity, asking, can the programs be geared to both youth and adults? Yeah, absolutely. And the activities, like Claire saying, that we're creating are more multi-generational activities. And we also know that library staff are really good at kind of adapting activities that might seem kid-focused into adult or vice versa. So yeah, absolutely. I think multi-generational is fantastic. And we know the realities of library programs anyway. If you say, hey, this is for 3rd through 5th grade, you're going to get so many younger siblings anyway. Nikki's asking, and Claire, I'm not sure if we have a number of this, but do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I did put together just one slide giving you a preview of the activities and resources that we are developing. We are doing our best to make the activities multi-generational. There are some that you'll see are more geared towards younger kids, just in the content area, but there are also all kinds of handouts that you can give to any age group. And we do have an in-house Spanish translator. So once we have our activities finalized, my goal is to have all of at least the patron-facing activity resources available in Spanish as well. That's something we always try to do. But I'm going to quickly share my screen. It's just one slide, just to kind of give you a taste. Let's see. Where did my show? Here it is. Okay. All right, so current slide. All right, so this is just one slide. We're putting together a whole guide for your library to implement programming, and that will include just resources to hand out, such as on the bottom left corner here. This is an ID card specifically for the birds in the Northeast, but we're working with Cornell to develop bird ID cards for every region in the country. We also, if you wanted to see what the bird safe tape looks like, you'll be receiving some of that you can either make, one of your windows bird safe in the library, and we'll include a written handout that talks about why are we putting this tape on the windows. You can even put a sign up next to it where people are like, why does this window look different than this window? What is going on here? So we'll include some of the science behind what birds see and how the bird tape can allow birds not to crash into the windows. One of our multi-generational activities is up here on the top left. This is, if you're familiar with any of our other sorting game activities, like how big, how far, how hot, this is our bird spin on it. So we have how fast, how high, how long, how far they can fly. So you can families can work together, multi-generations can work together to learn about these different attributes of birds and then work together to sort the cards. We are creating an art activity about creating window decals. So kids can create their own little bird and learn how to put it up on a window so that they also are a way to deflect any bird strikes. And again, we are working on ways to, I know with some of your municipality rules, you can't put anything on the windows or even the walls sometimes in your library. So these can be adapted into take and make kits as well, or shared with your community partners who might have the ability to bird proof their windows. And one other just example of an activity is we put together a bird scavenger hunt. So that will absolutely be available in English as well as Spanish. We have a facilitation guide along with that if you want to do a scavenger hunt. as part of your programming, or it can be an easy take and make and have kids take these home. We have plenty more activities and resources, but we just wanted to give you sort of a sneak peek into what the programming resources look like.
Awesome. Thank you, Claire. And I wanted to point out, Liz P was asking, Liz said, my library is very interested in bird safety and window strikes, but we know that our windows are particularly unsafe and bad for birds. Would that make us a bad fit? And I think that would make you a great fit, because you would really benefit from these resources and learning about bird strike, ways to prevent it. And, you know, hopefully, ideally, you could apply the tape to your windows at your library and do some of the decals and everything. But we also are planning to talk about other ways that, you know, you can remediate those bird strikes. So yeah, great question. And oh, Emily, that's a great question. Yeah, so Emily's asking now, and Claire, let's make sure we go through the other earlier chat too, because I just want to like vocalize them for people watching. The range of programming types you've envisioned, anything bird related, migration specific. As far as I know, there's no requirement to talk about migration. We are putting a little bit of an emphasis on migratory birds with this project, because they are the ones, you know, oftentimes experiencing those bird strikes. But we also know that everybody, you know, seems to have like a charismatic, like local type of bird in their community, and we don't want to, you know, stop you from talking about. We don't want to stop you in general from talking about what your community's interested in, right? I happen to think that like bird evolution, like how birds got these different features and these different adaptations, that's a really interesting, engaging type of programming. So I do think maybe with your adults, your programming might trend more towards, you know, identification, talking a little bit more about migratory birds. But the types of activities that we're developing and the type of activities that we anticipate that you would draw from would really kind of be anything bird specific.
Yeah, and I'll speak a little bit more about the library guide that we're creating. So there's 3 sections in there. The first is really bird ID. It's kind of like birding 101. That's why we have the scavenger hunt and the bird ID cards, and really learning like what is the difference between a migratory bird and a resident bird? How do we tell the difference? How do we even understand how to identify birds? So it's kind of a first glimpse. Section 2 goes more into the specific adaptations that migratory birds have and year-round birds have, such as their vision, their wingspans, the shape of their wings, things like that. So we're getting more into the physiology and the science just behind ornithology. And then the third section is really take action. So this is focusing on migratory birds specifically. There's only there's a few days out of the year where bird strikes are the most problematic. And if you've attended any of our previous webinars about this, 1 billion birds per year die from bird strikes in the US alone. So this is a huge issue, and bird species are declining around the globe. And so section 3 is like, what do we do about this? Now that we've learned how to identify birds, we've learned really cool facts about them. Now, what do we do to help them? And so that's where, you create bird decals, you do the tape on your windows. There are, turning the lights off on specific days of the year so that birds don't think they can fly, towards your building. So we'll really have a take action section as the third part of our guide. Oh, we also are developing a mural about the different migration flyways. So you'll be just bringing that art element in as well and learning, which birds are migrating through my region. Are they different from the ones on the other coast? So yeah, there is a big emphasis on migration and throughout the activities.
Oh man, it's already opened up I'm like, now that it's, springtime in Colorado and we're getting some birds, I'm like, oh, is that? So I guess you haven't been around for a while. It's good to see you. Yeah, I've learned so much. I studied rocks, I don't know about birds, but I've learned so much. Just going back to the chat, Caitlin was asking about kind of like how much detail with that experience section are you looking for? There's no requirement. As Annie said, please don't like upload resumes and CVs. We're not looking for that level of detail. Typically what we see is, maybe a short paragraph about some of the lead people from your library or the director. And then 1 or 2 sentences like, hey, this person, my teen programming person has a lot of interest in ornithology and birds, and they're going to be involved too. And really talking about so as Claire copied in the past in the chat, prior experience with STEAM programming. We want to make sure that this isn't your first STEM or STEAM rodeo, or if it is, that you're prepared to kind of you're excited about it and you're not, you're ready to jump in. Um, uh, your experience working with underserved populations as well, and experience developing resources and programming. Another question, which I think Annie answered in the FAQ about, hey, what if multiple branches from the same system want to apply? Just make sure that you are applying for your own branch, right? I know, it's very different in some more rural areas with one small library and some of these branches with 30 or 40 library or systems with 30 or 40 branches. But make sure that, yeah, it's not coming from a centralized location, that it's coming from the actual library that would be hosting it and running the programs.
And just going off of that, that's related to the most recent question in the chat. Is it acceptable to apply as a library system with the intent of spreading programs across multiple branches if there's one programmer or one small committee seeing the whole series? So that is a unique thing. I think, Annie's intent by saying, you should apply per branch. We want to see the people responsible for implementing the program committing and submitting the application. But Emily, your question, if there's one programmer that does the programs across branches, that's a unique situation. And I would say, go ahead and apply. And I would also maybe reach out to Annie.
Yeah,
I'll put her email in the chat and give that specific question straight to her. I think she could, because that's a little less black and white, I think, from the original way we were thinking of branches applying separately.
But that also sounds like a great way to spread the programming and reach a lot of people. I would say the same, just because if that came through an application and we didn't, you just saw that it was coming from a central branch, and it might get thrown out early, and we want to make sure that we knew that it was coming from a centralized place, but one person was running it, and was, yes, I think that would be great, Emily, but just you might reach out as you apply with that question. I think that was all that I'm catching up on.
It looks like, so is there a size of the program? Is that important? Caitlin says, we tend to hold numerous smaller events at our library. For this project, there is no minimum participant number per program requirement. I know we've had that in some of our other projects, like you have to have at least 10 people at your program. We are not beholding you to any number. And so, yeah, and Brooks elaborated, if you're doing a higher number of programs, just write that out in your application. But no, we're not going to, that's not even, I think, a question in the application. The size of your program is not something we're taking into consideration for this project. Another question is, can I get access to the recording? Because I missed the first part. Absolutely. We are posting this recording on our YouTube channel, and I will also put the recording in the blog. So I would say bookmark the Flight Path blog. I'll put it in the chat one more time. Keep coming back there as we get new resources, as we get new downloadable activities or just anything else like that, it will go into that blog. So this blog is a living, breathing thing where pertinent information will come up. So you can check out the recording either on our YouTube channel, if we're just the Star Library Network, or check back on the blog and we'll have the recording there probably within 24 hours or so. Thanks. And Brooks just put the YouTube link in the chat. Right, and I think that is.
Claire, do you have a good bird pun to end us on?
Oh no. Go and get that application started and get your ducks in a row so we could take flight together. I'm gonna stop right there.
All right. You guys, make sure everybody just please do reach out if you have questions. I know that some of you might have specific kind of unique circumstances, and we want to be as accommodating as possible and spread the wealth and get as many people involved as possible. So please do reach out.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.